So in the Course of Miracles, they're very specific about how we should approach the ideas and the symbols that are used in the Course. And it's a very open to multiple interpretations instruction. And so we're going to read that first from the clarification of terms. I'll share it here on the screen. So hello and welcome to Miracles on High Plains. My name is Jonica, and our reader today is David S.
This is not a course in philosophical speculation, nor is it concerned with precise terminology. It is concerned only with atonement or the correction of perception. The means of the atonement is forgiveness. The structure of individual consciousness is essentially irrelevant because it is a concept representing the original error or the original sin. To study the error itself does not lead to correction, if you are indeed to succeed in overlooking the error. And it is just this process of overlooking at which the Course aims. All terms are potentially controversial, and those who seek controversy will find it. Yet those who seek clarification will find it as well. They must, however, be willing to overlook controversy, recognizing that it is a defense against truth in the form of a delaying maneuver. Theological considerations as such are necessarily controversial, since they depend on belief and can therefore be accepted or rejected. A universal theology is impossible. Hold on, I lost it now. A universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. It is this experience towards which the Course is directed. Here alone, consistency becomes possible, because here alone, uncertainty ends.
So that was the first two paragraphs to the clarification of terms, which is a supplemental to the 3 volumes in the Course of Miracles. There's a lot of what I'll call knots. The Course is not this in this these paragraphs. Another way of thinking about it is they're defining certain boundaries and indicating that the Course is not within those boundaries. For in other words, it's not about philosophic speculation. It's not about precise terminology. This speaks directly to what we're reading now, because we're reading these specific themes here. It's not about precision of terminology, such as succinct one-line definitions that can be reported in a glossary. It's only concerned with your accepting of the atonement and experiencing of inner peace through the correction of perception. And so it's not about the study of individual consciousness, although there is information disclosed within the Course about how consciousness is structured. And it's not about controversies, debates, arguments, and sectarianism that would divide people along lines of the Course means this, the Course means that. It's not about theological considerations. All these things lead people to disagreeing with one another and dividing themselves into various schools of thought and camp. It is, however, about a universal experience achieved through forgiveness, whereby we attain a state of inner peace, which is what we would call the plan of atonement, that you would achieve peace not only within yourself, but with everything. So, as we go through the terms that we're doing in this series, realize that we're not trying to precisely define the terms, nor are we trying to introduce controversies. Think of these as ideas intended to stimulate your mind so that you'll orient towards the direction we'll call the light of heaven. And if the ideas do that, they would have been successful, because that's the path that takes us towards the universal experience that is not only possible, but necessary. Well, with that in mind, we'll begin the next topic, theme of special relevance, which is, what is the Christ?
Christ is God's Son as he created him. He is the self we share, uniting us with one another and with God as well. He is the thought which still abides within the mind that is his source. He has not left his holy home, nor lost the innocence in which he was created. He abides unchanged forever in the mind of God.
So it's kind of whenever we talk about Christ, the kind of unspoken elephant in the room is, are they talking about Jesus? And many people would immediately assume, based on nothing else other than the association between the term Jesus and Christ, that they're referring to the human Jesus here, the person that historically we know as Jesus. I would encourage you to enlarge your view beyond that terminology, that concept, to something that is far broader than what we think of as a man that lived, a Jew that lived in Palestine 2,000 years ago and taught about love. To think in far broader, to think in terms that are gifts from the Creator. So let's look at this again in that light. Christ is a gift. God's Son, as he created him, he is the self. And this is a expansive concept. Christ is the self we share that unites us with each other and with God. Christ is the thought which abides within the mind of God. And therefore, since you also abide in the mind of God, we are in this together. He's not left the mind of God, his holy home, nor lost his here's the key. The pure Christ has not lost his innocence. When you and I think of our humanity, oftentimes the notion of guilt is associated along with that. And so we think of loss of innocence. But the Christ is an untainted concept of pure innocence, not lost the innocence in which he was created for he is unchanged forever in the mind of God. He is a pure idea in the mind of God, in no way guilty or in any way subject to the vacillations that we think of as part of the human experience. Sandra?
Yeah, what I learned that Christ is a description of a consciousness, and that consciousness is based in the universal experience.
Yes. Yes. So the idea that Christ is the thought that abides in the mind of the source, that's consciousness. When we say he's a thought, it is not a single thought like happens in a human mind. Thoughts come and thoughts go. In this sense, it's an eternal thought. It's a thought that pervades the entire universe, and so that's another term for consciousness. Noel?
From the Greek Christos, Christ means anointed. So we could say that we're all anointed as children of God.
We could. Yeah, that uses symbology that would be consistent. The Course would say that we were created by God. So in the sense of that is inherent in our being that we are part of God and therefore all equally anointed. Okay, so this is the opening paragraph to these sets of ideas. And as we emphasize, they're layered ideas.
Christ is the link that keeps you one with God and guarantees that separation is no more than an illusion of despair, for hope forever will abide in him. Your mind is part of his, and his of yours. He is the part in which God's answer lies, where all decisions are already made and dreams are over. He remains untouched by anything the body's eyes perceive. For though in him his Father placed the means for your salvation, yet does he remain the self who, like his Father, knows no sin.
Mm-hmm. So Sandra referred to the Christ as a consciousness, and that's brought out really clear here. Your mind is a part of Christ, and Christ is a part of your mind. It's where the answers lie. And in fact, this consciousness is so elevated, it's a divine consciousness, that all decisions are already made. It's we used to refer to it as omniscient, all-knowing. All decisions are already made and dreams are over. So this would be a consciousness far beyond what we think of as human consciousness, which is kind of taking one step at a time, one step through time. This is a consciousness that already has the answers. It sees the end from the beginning. It knows A to Z are already known. And as we said before, remains untouched by anything the human sensory mechanisms would perceive. So it's a profoundly elevated consciousness. Christ remains the self who, like the Father, that's the key. Christ inherits all the attributes of the Father. And remember, he is the self in whom you find your true nature. You inherit all the attributes of the Father.
So we're all the Christ.
We all are partakers of the Christ.
Home of the Holy Spirit, and at home in God alone, does Christ remain at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality in truth. The rest is dreams. Yet will these dreams be given unto Christ to fade before his glory and reveal your holy self, the Christ, to you at last.
So either Sandra's reading ahead or she's anticipating this really well here, because here it says, reveals your holy self, the Christ, to you at last. It is our holy self. When we say that each of us is the Christ, the spirit within us, our holy self, is the Christ. Not to say that our body is, nor to say that our lower mind, the ego mind, which is confused, is the Christ, but our spirit, which was created eternal, is the Christ. And all of that, so there's a bridge here. All what we said previously might make you think, oh, well, this idea is in God's mind. This is way far away in some kind of paradise or heaven, while we're here on earth. That would be one way of responding to that. But no, no, no. The truth is, this has to do with you right now. And there's a line here that Christ is the home of the Holy Spirit, and Christ remains at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. This is the only part of you that has reality in truth. So clearly they're not talking about your body, nor are they talking about the part of the mind that would choose to be separate. They're talking about your true spirit. Now, a question that some might ask, where in space and time is the heaven of your holy mind? For in other words, where is it? So I'll leave that as an open question there. Sandra, you had a comment.
Yeah. My understanding of this is that we volunteered on purpose to incarnate as a body so that we could bring this consciousness to this planet. And I have to forgive myself for doing that.
Well, I was completely on board with you. Yes, I'm on board with you, and you need not feel bad about your decision to come here. Well, we'll just say, which part of our mind feels badly about our decision to come here?
The ego, of course.
And so yes, we want to not cling on to that idea any longer than we have to, and be gentle with ourselves and letting it go. Noel?
These passages give me a greater understanding of the greeting Namaste. The Christ in me acknowledges the Christ in you. And that's really a basic truth. And even my saying it now is giving me a sense of peace.
Thank you, Noel. That was a beautiful tie-in. It is about the divine nature within each of us, recognizing the divine nature in the other. We are labeling it the Christ, but we understand how in other cultures that have other traditions, other religious traditions, and other languages, they might not use the word Christ, but they might still convey the divine light within me honors the divine light within you. We are saying the same thing. Or again, precise terminology is not our goal here to make this a little concept that only applies to the English language and would be narrow or limiting in any way. This is referring to a universal experience in which all can participate, all are welcome, all are created into this consciousness. It should be underscored. The only part of you that has reality and truth is this Christ that remains at peace within the heaven of your holy mind. Everything else, the body and the confusion of the lower mind, all pass away. Even our higher mind keeps learning and changing and forgiving. Even that is on skimming along the surface of forgiveness. The only part of you that has eternal reality and truth is the pure and innocent Christ that remains within the heaven of your holy mind. Because why do we say it's the only part of you that has reality? It's the only part that never changes. It's the only part that is eternal and permanent within you. This is the part that is invulnerable. This is the part that cannot be affected by any of the events of the world. Its light is never dimmed by any of the events of time and space. All right, so what else do we have?
The Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you to all your dreams and bids them come to him to be translated into truth. He will exchange them for the final dream which God appointed as the end of dreams. For when forgiveness rests upon the world and peace has come to every son of God, what could there be to keep things separate for what remains to see except Christ's face?
So the next theme that we're going to cover in the second half of this session is on the Holy Spirit. Here, where they're talking about the Christ, it introduces the Holy Spirit. They are not the same, although they are in a perfect union with each other. The terms do have distinctions between them, and we will find that the Holy Spirit, which we know already, is this messenger for the light of Christ. Matter of fact, it says another place, the Holy Spirit is the light which extends from the Christ consciousness, the Christ mind. And so it reaches from the Christ in you to that part of your mind. The Holy Spirit reaches to that part of your mind that's confused and bids it come forward towards heaven, towards awakening. The Holy Spirit does the preliminary work. So this might be the easiest way to sum it up. The Holy Spirit is your elementary school teacher that prepares you for middle school and high school, which is taught by the Christ mind. But before you're ready, let's just call it high school, before you're ready for secondary school, you have to first be taught and learn the lessons from primary school. And so that is the sequence here. And what happens at the end of secondary school is that we encounter, excuse me, somebody knocking on my door here. We encounter what remains is we encounter Christ's face, which is, can be interpreted. This is the way I interpret this thing. This is after you have completed or near completed secondary school, you approach this being of light we call the Christ, and when you look into his face, you see your own. Do you get that? Prior to that, it'd be easier to, the mind wants to keep the Holy Christ at a distance and say, no, you see, I'm different. I'm not like that. The Christ is elevated to this higher spot. But when forgiveness is complete, we look upon the face of Christ and recognize our own true self. Susie?
Can you let me know if this is kind of sounds right to you? So the Christ in me is in me eternally. I might not know that, but it's in me. So when I'm ready, I ask the Holy Spirit for help. And the Holy Spirit really reaches to the Christ that's in me already. Is that kind of, you know, it's obviously, so that's kind of what it's saying to me. Like, it's actually such a beautiful, hopeful feeling. So the Holy Spirit is just working with what's already there.
Yes.
I just don't know it. Right. And so it's not that difficult, which is what we always say. It's just different because all those higher self Christ vision things, that's already there. The Holy Spirit is just helping correct my thinking so I can get there and remain there for longer amounts of time in this world. Is that kind of?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the Holy Spirit does the preliminary work. When we first take an interest in such matters, our mind is so filled with our own self-concepts, our own illusions, our own idols, and our judgments and guilt that embracing the Christ as ourself is not really feasible in a genuine way until we do the work of primary school, which is forgiveness, to lay down our illusions, let go of our idols, realize that we were never intended to be judges of one another, and to open our minds to the light within us. And as we only then are we prepared to begin to entertain a concept of a holy Christ consciousness within ourselves. Sandra?
Yeah. Um, my understanding of the Holy Spirit is that it is my higher mind, and that helps me to own it, like it's already there.
Yeah.
But I don't have access to it unless I ask.
Mhm.
That the way that I get access to my higher mind is to call on the Holy Spirit and ask, give the Holy Spirit whatever my problem is and ask to be shown the truth, and then have faith and trust in not only my higher mind to tell me what the truth is, to guide me, but that it'll come at some point, because it doesn't always come immediately. But what I can do immediately is turn it over. And turn it over, meaning I can ask for help immediately. And like I say, then go paddleboarding.
Yes, yes. All right. I think this is the last paragraph here for this.
And how long will this holy face be seen, when it is but the symbol that the time for learning now is over, and the goal of the atonement has been reached at last? So therefore, let us seek to find Christ's face and look on nothing else. As we behold his glory, will we know we have no need of learning or perception or of time or anything except the holy self, the Christ whom God created as his son.
So there's we're talking about the end of the journey here, not the beginning in this paragraph here, about the end of your journey and my journey in forgiveness. Okay, so how long will so in the previous paragraph, we said that you're look upon the holy face of Christ. How long will this holy face be seen? Well, remember that symbol is about our journey through time. For in other words, it's a symbol for reclaiming your own Christ consciousness, which Sandra expressed earlier. It's an experience that we do in time. We come to know our own holy self once again in time. And when we do, learning now is over. That's what time is for, to reclaim the truth. As Susie said, it's always been true, but I didn't know it. To reclaim and consciously to recognize, which is to recognize, to cognize once again, to know once again what was always true. So now learning is over. There's nothing more to learn in time, and the goal of atonement has been reached at last. So that again, that coming to see the face of Christ is vital, the vital work for now. But it has an ending to it. And it ends with what we would call the goal of atonement has been reached. No more judgments, no more guilt, no more conflicts within ourselves, total acceptance of the Christ consciousness within everyone. So the goal of atonement has been reached. And so, and then that's going to take time. That's what time is for. So let us seek to find Christ's face and look on nothing else. And then there's this line that I'd like to question. As we behold his glory, Christ's glory, the light, glory is light. As we behold the glorious light, holy light from Christ, we will know that we have no need of learning or perception or of time or anything else except the holy self. So we are talking about the end of learning, no more need for perception, no more need for time or for anything else as we behold his glory. And so, what is that experience? That is, I think you can't know what that experience is until you've experienced it. For others, we can theorize and say words, but only somebody that's experienced it can say for sure. Beholding the glory of Christ and knowing that you stand within it without casting any shadow, meaning there's no shame, no guilt. It's a feeling of, I belong here. This is who I've always been. I'm welcome home. This is who we are. Susie?
Yeah, so this is crazy because you just said, but it will take time, whatever you're talking. You just said, and I had an experience when I read that sentence, like, oh, like I know it intellectually, and I, read it and do the lessons, but it's like, oh, I really am holy. This says the Holy Spirit reaches from the Christ in you. And I just had like, as I said before, like, oh, that's what that means. All those lessons, I am very holy, I am the Son of God, I am holy, all those lessons. And it's like, okay, whatever, I get it, but I don't feel it. But I just had, I see Simon laughing, but it's true. I just had this experience of, oh, that's what that means. I am holy. Wow. So, when it takes a lot of time, takes time. But when you feel it and get it, it's like amazing.
I'll piggyback on that for a minute. Sometimes I don't talk about for myself, obviously, but sometimes I just know I'm overthinking it. I don't know if that makes sense. You're trying to get all academic and all cross all your T's and all your I's, whatever, but that's not what you need to do. It's I don't know, I see it as something you just have to let flow. And you sit there and just see it come at you.
Yeah, I would affirm that it's more about letting go than making something happen, because we get in our own way there. So there's, I'm going to take a comment from Noel, but there's something that hasn't been said yet that shouldn't be forgotten. Noel?
I can imagine it, project it as a sense of peace, total peace, completeness, need for nothing, surrender. And so your second question at the bottom, what are the conditions? I would say surrender, letting go, as you say, of the intellect, letting go of the need to understand, letting go of controlling, trying to control the experience, letting go of having a great experience, even a transcendent experience.
No, that's really true. Noel, there's there are many people particularly people part of Maharaji University, that would meditate for 8 hours a day. That was their function in that community, was to bless the world, meditate on behalf of the world. And they would talk about wanting so badly to have this tremendous experience in meditation, you know, to strive, you know, knowing that that was a trap, but nevertheless, the mind is inclined to want to. Oh, I had such a great experience last month. I just want that to happen again, and even that gets in the way, because now you're trying to work for it. You're trying too hard, and like Simon said, it's almost all just showing up and getting yourself out of the way.
And letting go of envy of others who talk about having had such experiences, whether they have or not.
Yes. Yes. Heather?
Yeah, when Nicole was outlining that, I mean, Noel, I was thinking of the line in the Course that says, we are complete and healed and whole. And that's the feeling that comes to me. It's that sense of completion, and we're healed and we're whole. And so there's no more questions.
Ah, no more questions, because learning is now over. So we don't take our list of questions into that experience, our plans into that experience. We come empty, with empty hands and open hearts. So the thing that hasn't been mentioned yet is, oh, what of the holy instant? What is a holy instant in any way related to this experience of beholding the light of Christ? And that's the type of questions we should be asking. Whether, so one more thing, this is not a theology, so we're not trying to create a set of rules here that this has to happen when all that happens and all that happens. But I would submit that one of the conditions that has to be met is you have to be able to enter into the holy instant without clamping down and getting all self-absorbed and getting yourself in the way. You have to have easy passage into that experience. Heather?
Yeah, when you just said that, I realized for me, when I have these experiences, briefly, glimpses of them, is when I'm having a holy instant with another. I have them more when I'm in a relationship than when I have it alone. It's an exchange in the holy instant.
That's beautiful. Thank you. And okay, in my own, what Heather just said in relationship to another, it's just a feeling. What I'm about to say is just a feeling. I don't know. But when I was working in a soup kitchen and would hand food to this hungry person whose eyes would light up, this was the biggest meal they're going to have all day. And to me, I was beholding the face of Christ in that moment. I don't know. That was that's how I feel about it. Susie?
But I have to say also that I feel like the Holy Spirit is I'm having a relationship with the Holy Spirit, and she's my mighty companion as well. Because there are some times I go to bed and I ask, for my mind to be healed or something, and I wake up with a thought or a glimpse, like Heather just said, like I just felt like I had. And it's like, oh, yeah, wow. And I feel that holy instant feeling, and it's from the Holy Spirit. It's from our relationship with the Holy Spirit. It doesn't, for me, I feel like I get that a lot.
I would hope so, yeah.
Another human, like, yeah.
Well, part of it is what you're saying, what Heather's saying are the same thing, is that you connect with the Holy Spirit in another. As Sandra said earlier, the Holy Spirit is part of each of our higher minds. So when you connect with, shall we say, the best in another person, you're connecting with you're recognizing the Holy Spirit within them. Final comments? We're going to go on.
That's been my experience is the Holy Spirit is, first of all, I'm always talking to the Holy Spirit. So I'm having holy instances constantly, but I can't maintain them. That what happens is that, I life starts happening and then I could go back into the ego. And so right now, it's kind of like a yo-yo.
Oh, that's why they call them instances, not holy hours. Yeah. Heather?
Yeah, just to address Susie's question, for me, the Holy Spirit is the mother image of God. So it's my divine parents. It's the Holy Spirit. Sometimes I go to her, and sometimes I go to Christ, and it's those divine parents that have my back always, and that's where my defenselessness can come in because I trust them both. And one is, for me, tends to be more feminine and give me answers than that, and the other tends to be more direct and give me direction. So it's the two divine parents is what gives me my stability and gives me my sense uh of feeling like I belong in the family.
Very nice. Thank you. Well, since we have been talking so much about the Holy Spirit, we should make sure that we include her in this session. David?
The Holy Spirit mediates between illusions and the truth. Since he must bridge the gap between reality and dreams, perception leads to knowledge through the grace that God has given him to be his gift to everyone who turns to him for truth. Across the bridge that he provides are dreams all carried to the truth, to be dispelled before the light of knowledge. There are sights and sounds forever laid aside. And where they were perceived before, forgiveness has made possible perception's tranquil end.
So the Holy Spirit within the Course of Miracles framework has a very definite function, a very definite mission. She meets us when we're ready to begin a turn direction from self-deception to truth. She meets us wherever we are. She mediates whatever illusions we happen to be possessed by. She meets us right there, and she is the master at helping us to find our way out of our own dark confusion and move towards the light. They are fond of referring to the Holy Spirit as the bridge between the gap of that we believe separates us between truth and ourself she creates a bridge over that and brings us towards the realm of reality. And it's a gift that everyone, and in this sense, Heather referred to as a mother spirit. In this sense, she's like a nurturing mother that never would abandon her children under any circumstances, no matter how much trouble we might get ourselves in. She's still there, ready to respond the minute we turn to her. And so this is where the preliminary work is. All your illusions, your judgments, your fears, your guilt, your idols, your self-deceptions, bring them to her. Don't try to wrestle with those demons yourself because that's what the ego wants you to do, is wrestle with the demons and exhaust yourself, but bring them to the Holy Spirit. And that's her mission. That was what she was created for, to help us with that primary school task. Heather?
I love this third paragraph. The dream, where all dreams are carried to the truth to be dispelled before the light of knowledge. That reminds me of, again, the mothering image where a child thinks there's a boogeyman under the bed, and she goes and looks with them and says, do you see anything there now? There's nothing there. It's not real. And her light dispels the darkness of these, terrible dreams that we carry forward and thinking that we're that. So I just love the image that she gently shines the light on the mistruth, the miscreations, or all the things that aren't true. And then we can see the light, and then we know there's nothing under the bed.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we do this individually, when we bring our illusions to be dispelled before the light of knowledge, David, this is similar to bringing your illusions to the altar and leaving your illusions down at the altar. Not to bring them there and insist that they're real, but to bring them there for the purposes of laying them down and letting them go, and withdrawing power from them.
This, oh, goodness gracious.
Did I lose you?
Not yet.
I hear you.
The goal the Holy Spirit's teaching sets is just the end of dreams. For sights and sounds must be translated from the witnesses of fear to those of love. And when this is entirely accomplished, learning has achieved the only goal it has in truth. For learning, as the Holy Spirit guides it to the outcome he perceives for it, becomes the means to go beyond itself, to be replaced by the eternal truth.
Mm-hmm. So you think about it, the Holy Spirit first, when we first turn to the Holy Spirit, we basically lost our minds and with illusions, and believe illusions to be everything, and our idols to be most valuable, and our judgments to be justifiable. We're in this crazy mindset, and the Holy Spirit meets us right there where we are and gently brings us along, and we're for the purposes of reaching the goal, which is the end of our dreaming. And so at the end of dreaming is where the miracles really begin. It's It's where the miracles become natural and constant daily miracles, because there's no longer power being lost to illusions, but the power of our mind is focused solely on the light and the truth. So she helps us with that translation from our insanity to our sanity, from our fear to love. And then when that goal is complete, is synonymous with when a learning is complete, when forgiveness is complete. So this is goal of the whole Course of Miracles, is to get us to that place where that becomes not just an infrequent occurrence, not just a glimpse every now and then, but an ongoing experience. Sandra?
Yeah, the Holy Spirit helps me, my experience with it helps me to reinterpret the situations so that I can find the love in it rather than the punishment. Because I've experienced so much punishment, my mind seems to go into the punishment area, and then I have to start, and then I got to protect myself and start to control things and all of that stuff. But if I can reinterpret what's going on and know that it's really my opportunity to either love myself, to forgive myself, or to extend love to another, and I may have to, it might take time, but the Holy Spirit helps me to reinterpret.
She
I'm
sure
complete.
does. She's the translator. Part of that is the ego always speaks first. When there's a situation happens, the ego's right there with a instinctual reaction of opposition, and its mind training teaches us to pause and choose again. And that's when we open ourselves to the reinterpretation of the Holy Spirit, who will always be there ready to offer another way of looking at this.
If you but knew how much your Father yearns to have you recognize your sinlessness, you would not let his voice appeal in vain, nor turn away from his replacement for the fearful images and dreams you made. The Holy Spirit understands the means you made by which you would attain what is forever unattainable. And if you offer them to him, he will employ the means you made for exile to restore your mind to where it truly is at home.
I found this really profound. I was in reading ahead of time. I was really moved by this, and I realized it might need some interpretation here. The Holy Spirit understands the means your ego made, which is briefly to dream that my illusions are real. I don't know about your illusions, but my illusions are real. That's what the ego wants to be the author of your existence, the authority. My illusions are real. And that's a process of misplacing our power into thoughts that are poorly founded. So the Holy Spirit, understands that that's what we've done and uses that talent but repurposes it so that you can, she repurposes it towards heaven's purpose. And so the question I'll ask you is, what does she replace it with? He will employ the means you made for exile to restore your mind to where it truly is at home. Well, here, okay, so that was a question I asked myself. She repurposes dark dreams into a happy dream. It's still a form of perception. It's still a choice on your part to place the power of your mind upon a belief and believe it to be true. That's what all of Course in Miracles is still a function of using the power of your mind to interpret the world using now the Holy Spirit's guidance, and agreeing using your faith and your belief in the power of your mind to believe that that's real. So she understands that you've been making illusions real. Now she enables you through her guidance to make her interpretations real. This is what holy perception is. And so it's the easy way out, because you can't wake someone else up into the final light when you're in a state of chaos and conflict and judgment. You have to first bring the mind to meet the conditions for entering into heaven, which is a peaceful mind. So the Holy Spirit employs this means of perception, of interpreting the situation as real, to restore your mind to where it is truly at home. It's at home in the quiet, holy center of your mind, the circle of light, the place where the thoughts of peace reside. Susie?
I just wanted to share a pretty amazing experience that I've had with the Holy Spirit, kind of like this. I'm not an alcoholic. I don't have that disease, but I had conflict in my mind that I made up. Did I want to drink or not? Even a glass of wine would give me a headache. And I had all this going on in my mind and all these stories. Well, I'll decide when I get there and blah, 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 all that baloney and all that stuff. But it was a big conflict for me in my ego mind and whatever. And I just kept asking the Holy Spirit to help me with this conflict, to help me. What else do I need to know? Just help me. And one day I woke up and I didn't have a conflict anymore. And really, I prayed a lot. And one day I woke up and I just didn't have this conflict anymore. And my mind was clear and peaceful. And I don't know who decided, but my mind was very certain and sure that I just didn't want to drink anymore. And that was what brought me peace. I never had an experience so certain and profound. It was not of my own thinking. It was as I had so much conflict and then I had none. None. Never think about it, never dwell on it, never crosses my mind. And it was pretty amazing. Only brought by my willingness to accept the Holy Spirit's help. And there are times that I say to David, like just wow. And that is kind of what this is saying to me. And, she employed the means to restore my mind. Anyway, I had to share it.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I really love the line, I had so much conflict, and then I had none.
Yeah, I was like tortured, and then I was free.
Yeah. And that's what many people testify, that these things that were barriers, sometimes for a decade, all of a sudden when they were gone, they were gone. No more, there was no more power going to maintain those beliefs. It had been completely let go of and replaced. All right.
From knowledge, where he has been placed by God, the Holy Spirit calls to you to let forgiveness rest upon your dreams and be restored to sanity and peace of mind. Without forgiveness, will your dreams remain to terrify you, and the memory of all your Father's love will not return to signify the end of dreams has come.
So, question, where is the Holy Spirit? But I know we can say the Holy Spirit is in my mind. That's what I really want to say is, what state of reality does the Holy Spirit exist in? Is she living inside your dark dreams? Is she living inside your peaceful mind that has just let forgiveness go? Where does she exist? In what part of reality? And it tells us right here.
From knowledge,
The Holy,
which is the single mind.
yes, the Holy Spirit. And another place it clarifies that she stands at the doorway between knowledge and perception. She has not left knowledge, but she's also, so to speak, looking out over the realm of perception, which is constantly changing. Knowledge is not changing, perception is. And she has, so to speak, one eye still in the stable realms of knowledge, and the other eye out there in the realms of perception, so that she can translate from the realms of knowledge a message into language of perception. So that is, she's never left the realms of knowledge. She's not lost in a happy dream, not lost in a dark dream, not even in a happy dream. She's still anchored where God has placed her. Heather?
So I really see how she's the bridge between perception and knowledge now.
Yes.
Get it.
Thank you, Heather. That you do get it. You do get it. That's, she's there. Matter of fact, yeah. And so this is why she sees the end from the beginning. This is why every lesson that you and I, speaking not just you and I, that the entire sonship has to learn, she already can see it from where she's positioned. She already understands the whole learning journey, and she understands where we go after that. So she's the perfect guide for that. And her messages, for that reason, are timeless. Because she's positioned to know these things. Heather?
That's why when she gives us those visions, they're complete and healed and whole because she is seeing perception and knowledge and bridges both. And now we can see that in its true light of complete and healed and whole.
Excellent. Excellent. Exactly. Because if she were not in knowledge, she would have partial understanding. She would have opinions that would maybe have need to change later on. But because she's in knowledge, she sees it all. As Heather said, it's complete and whole. And then her skill is in translating that in a way that you're, in my mind, can understand in terms that we can understand right now, in a messaging system that we can begin to grasp. Noel?
I like the last few words of the first paragraph. Perception's tranquil end. And that's part of what you're talking about, that she orchestrates the tranquil end. She isn't a hard taskmaster. She isn't a punishing parent, nothing like that. And I keep thinking of how you said over and over, the transition, our transition is gentle. And that's what this relates to me also, the tranquil end.
Yes, very good, Noel. You see it. We at that point, we're saying, I've had all perception I need. I'm glad to be here. I let it all go. And literally, I have nothing that I want to carry with me from time into heaven. I'm willing to lay all my idols aside, and I'm not in resistance or fighting any of it. All right, you guys are great. Thank you for sharing those perceptions, those insights there.
Accept your Father's gift. It is a call from love to love, that it be but itself. The Holy Spirit is his gift, by which the quietness of heaven is restored to God's beloved Son. Would you refuse to take the function of completing God when all he wills is that you be complete?
So a moment ago, Noel referred to perception's tranquil end. And it's the entry, the invitation to enter into the quietness of heaven. It's a re-entry, actually. It's not like in the Course of Miracles, we were in that state before we entered into time, and we re-enter into a quiet zone. And so the condition for doing that is to find and welcome quietness yourself. Let's spend a minute before we wrap up with this last question and look at it from whatever interpretations you might have. Would you refuse to take the function of completing God when all he wills is that you be complete? Well, it implies that, remember, this is in the paragraph where we are to accept our Father's gift. We're talking about the gift from the Father. So the Father's plan for all the sonship. His plan for us is that we participate, we function as co-creators in completing God. What does that mean? what does the author mean that our function is to complete God? I can hear Jerry, who attends on Saturdays, saying, well, I thought God was complete already. Then why would he have need of me to complete God? And that's a valid point of view, valid in the sense that many people would think in those terms. Is God incomplete? Does he need us to complete him? What is this take the function of completing God all about? Heather?
Well, what came to me is it says we enter heaven 2 by 2. And when to complete God, I have to bring my brother with me. And the old joke about, you come to the pearly gates and, they say, you tell him all the great things you've done. Well, that's not what he asks. What he's going to ask is, where's your brother? That's what he's going to say. Where's your brother? You can't enter here without your brother. And so I think for me, completing God is I have to bring my brother with me. I can't go in there alone.
Agreed. Yes. It's not a solo journey. It's the people you bring with you. Susie?
Well, I think we've been taught through the course that God needs all his sons to be complete. I mean, God needs us as much as we need him. When all he wills is that you be complete. So if I'm complete, you're complete, like Heather just said, he needs the whole sonship. And yes, God, I remember taking a spiritual course from a rabbi, and the rabbi saying, God is crying tears until you all come home. And I remember that's the first time I ever really heard that, So yes, God needs us as much as we need him.
Nice. Thank you. Noel?
My lesson today is I call upon God's name and on my own. And the explanation is that God's name is our name. So I agree with Susie that he needs his son in all its manifestations to be complete.
Thank you. Sandra?
Hence, that's why I say that we are in God's school, and God's our teacher. And if I don't, graduate from this course, then if I fail this course, then my teacher has failed. If I pass this course, then my teacher's golden. So God needs me as much as I need God.
Okay, well, I think we have a majority opinion here. Just one more angle look on it. Did God leave heaven to come out in the time and space? So, as Sandra had said, we volunteered to come out here to time and space and assume this form and all this. So we didn't come out here to rebel against God, but to fulfill a plan of atonement. So the Course says that we are the extensions of God. We are essential to his plan of salvation in time and space. And it's not complete until the entire sonship has reunited in the light in accordance with the plan of atonement. And so, yes, we have a function in time and space of completing God. He put it in our hands. I know that sounds profound, but logically, it makes perfect sense. He put time and Matter of fact, I was shocked, workbook lesson 71 says you, meaning we, are in charge of God's plan for salvation. Because we are here in time and space, we are the hands and feet and the eyes and ears that are needed to complete that task. Heather?
I just keep thinking of your image, the jigsaw puzzle and how one piece is missing and how God would look down and say, where's your brother? You can't come and it's not complete till your brother's home with you. And then it just had the image of on either side of my piece are two other pieces that fit with me perfectly. And that's my job to find those brothers that fit with me and bring them into the family too. So we all can be completing this picture together. And so those are individual little assignments that we have, are those brothers that are next to us that fit our pieces so that we all come together to complete this picture all together.
So Heather said there's other pieces that perfectly fit with you. Can you farm that task out to somebody else? No, your part is essential to God's plan for salvation. So, I said that it was going to get rich and profound and deep, and hopefully you found this to be all that and more. We're now halfway through these themes of special relevance. I think you'll find the remaining ones to be also very moving, very expansive, not limited to one-line definitions of what is the Holy Spirit, but a part of a broad and interlaced matrix jigsaw puzzle, if you will, that goes on for infinity. And we're privileged to have glimpsed a part of it here today. So I want to thank you for being a part of that journey. David, thank you for reading. Thank you all for your presence. I honor the divine light in the Christ within you. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Wonderful class. Thank you. Thank you, David.
Nama, nama, namaste.
Namaste, everybody.
Nama, nama, namaste.
Namaste. Bye.
Peace and love.
Good night.